Happy Halloween. Hey, my fellow humans, goblins, and ghouls. It's me, Jules 3, with a Halloween video today. I like the atmosphere of this arrangement we're doing right now. It's not going to be permanent, though, just as a little intro. Part of the intro. Because today I'll be talking to you about a series of books I used to read when I was younger, called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Or More Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I actually have it right here. I actually have a copy right here. My niece gave it to me. It's More Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I'd read it right now, but unfortunately, it's hard to see. I only have just enough light for you to be able to barely see me. And when I open up this book, I can't see anything. So, let me just change the lighting situation. Okay. That's much better. Well, much better for me so I can read this book. So my niece gave this to me. When I first saw it, I immediately got flooded with nostalgia of reading this when I was a kid, around the same age as her, actually. It's not the exact same thing. I mean, this was actually made in 1984, I think, this specific book, but because it's old. But I remember having the paperback kind of scary stories to tell in the dark, and I would read it every time, like when it was close to Halloween or Halloween. I would read it, and I thought I'd share some of the scary stories to tell in the dark with you all. Hope you don't mind. Okay, so we are going to start with The Wreck. That's what it's called, The Wreck. Fred and Jeanne. I said the name wrong. Okay, let me try again. Fred and Jeanne went to the same high school, but they met for the first time at the Christmas dance. Fred had come by himself, and so had Jeanne. Soon, Fred decided that Jeanne was one of the most nicest girls he had ever met. How sweet. They danced together most of the evening. At 11 o'clock, Jeanne said, "I have to leave now. Can you give me a ride?" "Sure," he said. "I've got to go home too." "I accidentally drove my car into a tree on my way over here," Jeanne said. "I guess I wasn't paying attention." Fred drove her to the head of Bradley Road. It was in a neighborhood he didn't know very well. "Why don't you just drop me off here?" Jeanne said. "The road up ahead is in really bad condition. I can walk from here." So Fred stopped the car and held out some tinsel. "Have some," he said. "I got it at the dance." "Thank you," she said. "I'll put it in my hair." And she did. "Would you like to go out sometime to a movie or something?" Fred asked. "That would be fun," Jeanne said. After Fred drove off, he realized he didn't know Jeanne's last name or her phone number. "I'll go back," he thought. "The road can't be that bad." He drove slowly down Bradley Road through a thick woods, but there wasn't a sign of Jeanne. As he came around a curve, he saw the wreckage of a car ahead. It had crashed into a tree and had caught on fire. Smoke was still rising from it. As Fred made his way to the car, he could see someone trapped inside, crushed against the steering column. It was Jeanne. In her hair was the Christmas tinsel he had given her. And here's the beautiful illustration. So, that was The Wreck. What did you think of The Wreck? I think it's okay. I had a few more, but I'm just going to skip. Okay. The Little Black Dog. This one's interesting. First, that is the little black dog. Billy Mansfield said that a little black dog followed him wherever he went, but he was the only one who saw it, so people thought he was kind of crazy. To drive the dog away, Billy was always hollering at it, throwing rocks at it, but the dog always came back. The first time Billy saw that dog was the day he fought Silas Burton. Billy was just a young man then, but the Burtons and Billy's family had been feuding for years. When Billy saw Silas riding towards him, he went for his gun and Burton went for his. But Billy fired first. He hit Burton in the back, knocking him from his horse. Burton's horse ran off, and his gun fell where he couldn't reach it. He lay there on the ground, pleading with Billy not to kill him. But Billy killed him anyway. Burton's little black dog was with him when he was shot. The dog kept licking Burton's face, barking and snarling at Billy. In his anger, Billy killed the dog too. A moment of silence for the dog. Sorry, I got it. Moment of silence. Moment of silence for the dog. There wasn't much law enforcement in those days, so Billy wasn't arrested. Is this about Billy the Kid? But all that night he heard Burton's dog outside his cabin, scratching on his door and barking to be let in. I'm imagining this, Billy said to himself. I shot that dog. It's dead. But the next morning, Billy saw the dog. It was waiting for him outside. From then on, it was not a day when he didn't see it. And there wasn't a night when he didn't hear it scratching on his door, barking to be let in. From then on, Billy was always finding black dog hairs on his sofa, on the floor, in his bed, and even in his food. Ugh. Unsanitary. And the house and the yard stank of dog. That's what Billy said. Whenever somebody told him there wasn't any dog to see, he'd say, maybe you don't see it, but I do. And I'm not any crazier than you are. Things went on like that for many years. Then one morning in the middle of the winter, the neighbors didn't see any smoke coming out of Billy's chimney. When they went over to check, Billy wasn't there. A day or so later, they found his body lying on the snow in a field in the back of his cabin. Billy had plenty of enemies, and at first it seemed like somebody might have killed him, but there wasn't a mark on his body. There weren't even any footprints out there, except for Billy's. The doctor said Billy probably died of old age, but there was something odd about his death. When the neighbors found Billy, there were black dog hairs on his clothes. There were even a few on his face. It smelled like a dog been out here. Yet no one seen a dog anywhere. A more mild story, but it's still kind of, catchy. Let me see some of my other ones. This isn't the entire collection. This is just a small amount. Okay, let's look at the bride. The minister's daughter had just gotten married. After the wedding ceremony, there was a great feast, with music and dances and contests and games. Even old children's games. When they got to playing hide and seek, the bride decided to hide in her grandmother's trunk up in the attic. They'll never find me, she thought. As she was climbing into the trunk, the lid came down and cracked her on her head, and she fell unconscious inside. The lid slammed shut and locked. No one ever know how long she called for help, or how hard she struggled to free herself from that tomb. Everyone in the village searched for her, and they looked almost everywhere. But no one thought to look in that trunk. After a week, this must be like an accident or a typo or anything, because it says, after a week, her brand new bridegroom and all the others gave her up for lost. Years later, a maid went up to the attic looking for something she needed. Maybe it's in the trunk, she thought. She opened it and screamed. There lay the missing bride in her wedding dress, but by then she was only a skeleton. Before I continue, I would just like to talk about the fact that this was scary when I was around 8, 9 years old when I first read these stories. What's this? Rings on her finger. Daisy Clark had been in a coma for more than a month. When the doctor said that she had finally died, she was buried in a cool summer day in a small cemetery about a mile away from her home. May she always rest in such peace, her husband said. But she didn't. She didn't rest in peace at all. Late that night, a grave robber with a shovel and a lantern began to dig her up. Since the ground was still soft, he quickly reached the coffin and got it open. His hunch was right. Daisy had been buried wearing two valuable rings, a wedding ring with a diamond in it, and a ring with a ruby, as if it was alive. The thief got down on his knees and reached into the coffin to get the rings, but they were stuck fast on her fingers, so he decided that the only way to get them was to cut off her fingers with a knife. But when he cut into the finger of the wedding ring, it began to bleed, and Daisy Clark began to stir. Suddenly, she got up. Terrified, the thief scrambled to his feet. He accidentally kicked over the lantern, and the light went out. He could hear Daisy climb out of her grave as she moved past him in the dark. He stood there frozen with fear, clutching the knife in his hand. When Daisy saw him, she pulled her shroud around and asked, "Who are you?" When the grave robber heard this corpse speak, he ran. Daisy shrugged her shoulders and walked on and never once looked back. But in this fear and confusion, the thief fled into the wrong direction. He pitched headlong into her grave, and he fell onto her knife and stabbed himself. While Daisy walked home, the thief bled to death. So, the moral of the story is, don't go grave robbing. Trust me. Today's video is sponsored by Littil. Are you looking for better lighting for breathtaking selfies, live streams, or for creating your own video content? Well, look no further. You can let your light shine using one of many products by Littil. There's the Littil Superstar Slim Ring Light, which is perfect for ideal light whether it's for snapping pics or creating content. Its adjustable length can be expanded up 7 inches to 5 feet, and it's portable and easy to use for only $69.99. Or if you think spending $69 is ridiculous for a ring light, they also have Littil Shine, which is a smaller version meant for clipping on phones or desks for only $39. And you can save 10% when using promo code GEORGE3. That's GEORG3E. In a link in the description box below or on screen right here. Okay, so this story is about cats, so if you're a cat lover and you're also squeamish, now's the time for you to leave. The cat in a shopping bag. Miss Briggs was driving to the shopping mall to do some last-minute Christmas shopping when she accidentally ran over a cat. She could not bear to leave the corpse on the road for other cars to hit and squish. So she stopped, wrapped the cat in some tissue paper she had with her, and put it in an old shopping bag in the back seat. She said she would bury it in the backyard when she got home. At the mall, she parked her car and began walking to one of the stores. She had only taken a few steps when, out of the corner of her eye, she saw a woman reach into the open window of her car and take the shopping bag with the dead cat. Then the woman quickly got into a car nearby and drove away. Miss Briggs ran back to her car and followed the woman. She caught up with her at a diner down the road. She followed her inside and watched the woman slide into a booth. As the woman sat, sipping on her soda, she reached into Miss Briggs' shopping bag. Then she bent down, looked inside, and a look of horror crossed her face. She screamed and fainted. The waitress called an ambulance. 2 attendants carried the woman away on a stretcher, but they had left the shopping bag behind. Miss Briggs, being the brave soul that she is, picked up the bag and ran after them. "This is hers," she said. "It's a Christmas present. She wouldn't want to lose it." Moral of the story? Be careful when you drive. Don't steal people's shit that's in their car. I don't know. Oh, Susannah. Susannah and Jane shared a small apartment near the university where they were students. When Susannah got back from the library one night, the lights were out and Jane was asleep. Susannah undressed at dark and quietly got into bed. She had almost fallen asleep when she had heard somebody humming the tune to the song, Oh, Susannah. Jane, she said, please stop humming. I want to get some sleep. Jane didn't answer, but the humming stopped, and Susannah fell asleep. She awakened early the next morning, too early, she decided, and she was trying to get back to sleep when she heard the humming again. Please go back to sleep, she told Jane. It's too early to get up. But Jane didn't answer. But the humming continued anyway. Susannah became angry. Cut it out, she said. It's not funny. When the humming still did not stop, she lost her temper. She lost her temper. She jumped out of bed, pulled the covers off Jane, and screamed. Jane's head was gone. Somebody had cut off her head. I'm having a nightmare, Susannah told herself. When I wake up, everything will be all right. That's actually the end of that story. The moral of the story is don't go to bed early. That's all I can say. The cat's paw. Somebody Somebody was stealing meat Jed Smith kept in his smokehouse. Every day a ham or some bacon or something else was missing. Finally, Jed decided he had to put a stop to it. One night, he hid in the smokehouse with his rifle and waited for the thief. He didn't have to wait long, for soon a black she-cat snuck in. She was the biggest cat Jed had ever seen. When she jumped up and pulled down a ham hanging from the ceiling, Jed grabbed his rifle and turned on the lights. But instead of running away, the cat jumped at him. He fired and shot off one of her paws. Jed was sure he heard a woman scream right after the gun went off. The cat began tearing around the room, spitting and yowling. Then she ran up to the chimney and was gone. Jed stared at the cat's paw. But only it wasn't a cat's paw anymore. It was a woman's foot laying wriggling on the floor, all shot up and bloody. So it's a witch that's been doing it, he told himself. Just then, one of Jed's neighbors, a fellow named Donake, came racing down the road to get a doctor. His wife's foot had been shot in an accident, he told Jed. She's bleeding pretty bad, he said. The doctor got to her barely in time. People who were there when it happened said that she was spitting and howling just like a cat. Always feed your cats so they don't steal other people's foods. More of the story. Ooh, what's this? Oh, okay. And last but not least, the voice. Ellen had just fallen asleep when she heard a strange voice. Ellen, it whispered. Ellen, it whispered. I am coming up the stairs. I am on the first step. Now I am on the second step. Ellen got scared and called her parents. But they didn't hear her. They didn't come. Then the voice whispered, Ellen, I'm on the top step. Now I'm in the hall. Now I'm outside your room. And then it whispered, I'm standing right next to your bed. And then I've got you. Sorry. Ellen screamed, and the voice stopped. Her father rushed into the room and turned on the light. Somebody is in here, Ellen said. They looked down. They looked and looked. Nobody was there. And that is the voice. Okay, so those stories were just a small sample of scary stories to tell in the dark. Well, more scary stories to tell in the dark. I used to love reading these when I was a kid. I still kind of do. Although, if I had the actual collection of all of the stories, I'd probably have a better time. Especially if it was my own actual thing and not just libraries. But, hey, maybe I'll get one soon. So I wanted to say thank you all for watching. So I wanted to say thank you all for watching. I appreciate every single person who viewed this video. Thank you. If you have any comments or thoughts, leave them be in the comment section. Tell me your thoughts in the comment section, please. I read every single one of them. If you're not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell so you get notified when I upload next. And yeah, have a great day.